Hi there. Thank you for joining the Bloom Show. Just had some technical difficulties there, so hopefully people are able to join. Want to introduce to you our marketing month. This entire month through the Bloom Show, we're bringing on marketing experts and pioneers and people that have really looked at the aspect of the marketing game and got in early and are doing it right. So super excited about that. The Bloom Show, just to tell you a little bit about the Bloom Show, is truly here to innovate, inspire, and connect the floral industry. I always mess that up through community. And one great example of that is Ryan Black and Mike Black from Jet Fresh Flowers. One great example of marketing and why they're on board today is because they took on marketing 15 or so years ago. I'll let them explain. And Ryan Black said, "Hey, Dad, I think we should do this." Mike said, "Heck yeah, let's do it." He became the inspiration behind it as well. And then another thing is that I'm super excited and want to share is the fact of community, right? I myself, you might not know that I collaborate and consult for a few wholesalers, and we're actually in a way competitors, but they're here. They're here to share their story. They're here to share their information that they want to share with everybody because it's truly a way to, like Alejandro from Comment Sales said, let's stop fighting over the piece of the pie. Let's grow the piece of the pie so that we're all getting a bigger piece of the pie, and let's do it together. So again, please ask questions. Feel free to ask questions. I know they're open. They're an open book. They're not going to hide anything. They're going to share as much as they can because that's what's in their heart. So I truly appreciate them for that. So please help me invite Ryan Black on. Hey, Ryan.
Hello.
Hello. How are you, man? Thanks for joining us today. Something
Thank
you
you.
you know that technology's a mess sometimes, man. It's a great thing, but a bad thing. So, uh,
Exactly. There's always
uh,
going to be an issue, something going wrong
it,
always.
it's crazy, man. But you just got to keep on keeping on, right? You can't be you
That's right.
can't you can't let obstacles get in our way, man.
That's
So
right. That's right.
thanks for joining, man. I consider you. Um, I used to consider you the new generation, but now I consider you the generation, which means the present, the current, what is really being done within the flower industry. So again, thanks for joining, man. I've been a fan for a long time. Even I think you might dress up as a flower sometime. So props to you.
That flower costume's fun, man. The Gerber guy mascot, it's fun. Once you get behind the mask and nobody can see who you are, yeah, that's fun. You could always get in the costume. We can let you borrow it if you need it.
I'll share a secret with you. I used to be my senior class mascot.
Yeah,
So
there you go. So
I'll do it just for fun,
you
and
already
I
know.
used to be a cobra, so I'd rather be a gerbera. So
There you go. That's perfect.
so man, let's get started. I want to ask you, but I don't want to ask you. Is how did your journey into the flower industry start? I think that's just a kind of obvious question, but maybe you were headed in another direction and you didn't think about coming into the flower industry. How did that work out?
Well, as many people know, Jet Fresh Flowers is a family business. My father runs the business, but it goes way back before that. I'm fourth generation in the flower industry. My great grandfather grew roses. My grandfather had a place on 28th Street in the flower market. So I've been in flowers my whole life. I remember as a little kid going in and breaking down cardboard boxes, just stacks of cardboard boxes when I was young enough to do that. But through my life, I've worked in a lot of different aspects of the industry. When I was in college, I went to Florida Atlantic. When I was in college, there I was working with part-time with Valsimer events,
Oh,
helping
wow.
them set up
Right.
weddings and stuff like that on the weekends. A buddy of mine helped run a flower truck on the side of the road up there in Boca by my school. So we were literally putting together arrangements on the side of the road for retail customers when they would pull over.
Okay.
Um, and I also worked part time in Jeff Fresh as Jeff Fresh got started. Jeff Fresh started in 2008. I was in school at that point, up in university, and I was working part time in the warehouse. In the beginning, I was coming down when I wasn't in classes, and I was working there. Um, so basically, I've always been in flowers. You know what I mean? Throughout my
Got it.
life, just in
Uh,
different aspects between events to retail to the design side. But my passion's always been art. My passion's always been design. I went to school for computer animation and graphic design. That was my major. And with that came all of the technical abilities and technical tools of like Photoshop, video editing, photography. That all kind of fell into that same window of education for me. And that's really where my passion and my career started in that sense. And then it was as I graduated in 2011, Jeff Fresh was still taking off, getting bigger. And it was a pretty easy decision. I was looking for work right as I graduated, and there wasn't a lot of animation jobs in Florida. I would have had to move to California or something like that to get into an animation gig. So I kind of deviated towards the graphic design side. I ran a graphic design side hustle business for a few years when I was right after I graduated, doing websites and business cards and marketing, as well as I had a t-shirt company with my brother for a few years. We sold design and sold t-shirts. So that all kind of was like the groundwork for where I got started. And then after I graduated, my dad told me, he's like, hey, we're going to hire a designer, a marketing person, why not hire you? So I took a shot, and I've been here ever since. It's been a no-brainer ever since.
So you've been with your dad for how long?
I graduated in 2011, so that's when I started as marketing director. But I've been with the company as over 10 years because, like I said, I was working in the warehouse. I was pulling boxes before earning my stripes before I could get everybody here's got to start at the bottom of the food chain, get in the warehouse, learn the system, learn the process. That's even my brother Casey, he's been in the warehouse too. Everybody starts in the warehouse.
It makes a lot of sense, just like Henry Ford did, man. You learn from the bottom up.
You gotta learn the ropes.
Forget about having a butter knife. Have a Swiss Army knife. I agree with you. Why use one knife that are going to only cut one thing, right? So that's a fact. So, question for you is, what's your official and what's your unofficial name at Jet Fresh? Or title, sorry.
My technical title is marketing and media director. I guess nowadays you'd probably call that more of like a creative director or an art director in that sense. Okay. But I'm essentially the graphic designer, photographer, content creator, whatever you want to call it nowadays. I wear a lot of different hats.
And I think people don't realize, everybody thinks that, digital marketing is just press a button. But there's really so many dang layers to this that it's not just one social media or just be on LinkedIn. So tell us a little bit. I know this wasn't one of the questions, but tell us a little bit how important layering marketing is versus just focusing on one thing, but really just having all those layers that make that net.
Yeah, that's a great point because there's a lot of different customers and they're all in different places. Like they say, Facebook's for a certain age group, Instagram's for a certain type of people. You know what I mean? So if you're not covering all those grounds, there's missing opportunities in a certain demographic or a certain customer base. Jet Fresh itself is a very unique situation. We're a wholesaler, importer, grower. So social media is not necessarily meant, or at least wasn't necessarily meant for our audience. It's more of the floral side, more of the florist side, more of the event planners, can get more accomplished, can grow a bigger audience because they're appealing to everybody. They're appealing to anybody that wants to get married or wants to buy flowers. Our market is a very niche market, especially for social media wise approach. We got to think about how do we, target specific people without alienating certain people or stepping on toes or trying not to sell direct to certain customers, things like that. But yeah.
And that's what we run as a fine line, right? Because you don't want to upset our clients thinking that we're trying to step on their toes. So it's a strategy, right? It's not just posting pretty pictures.
And just because you share a post or they like a post on social media doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be, your new customer. There's a definite, there's a gap. There's a difference between following somebody on social media and being a customer of somebody. There's a huge difference between those two.
Yeah. So Jimmy's here saying, Jimmy the Tulip, all right? And I want to talk about that real quick. But Jimmy the Tulip is saying, go Ryan, and then I'll go Bono. And I'm sorry if I killed your name. I'm horrible with names. Hello from Bloom Bar from Charlotte, North Carolina. So maybe you know those guys. So that's awesome.
Well, Jimmy the Tulip's he's a new recruit to Jet Fresh. He's been here for a couple of years now. But we've already done a great job of making Jimmy the Tulip a household name. Everybody's one of our biggest marketing I don't know, you know, gimmicks or, or plans of attack is putting our people in the forefront. You know what I mean? We show our people, we show the personality as well as the flowers. You know, it's because buying flowers is a personal thing. You know, it's not automated. It's very difficult. So many things come into play between seasonality and pricing and sourcing and everything like that, so that it needs to be trustworthy. And this whole industry is essentially like who you know and trust. Can I trust them? And how well do I work together with that person? The industry has always been like that. So developing our marketing strategy around our people was what we did early on. We started that early on, and we ran with that ever since. And now we have a list, a little collection of characters essentially here now, between Fern and Melissa and the farm, and now Jimmy the Tulip and Olga's Check It Out. You know, like,
Check it out.
yeah. People, she says, Olga says people yell at her in the airport. Oh, check it out! I know you.
So what I really think about that, and what you've done, is you created, and I implore that, and I was talking about that about 2 months ago, and even now with Marketing Month, talking about that even more, is you have to make digital marketing a part of your company culture. And that's what you guys have really done. Is your expectation, correct me if I'm wrong, is, hey, you're going to be a part of this company culture. You're going to be, you're in or you're out, right? Tell us about your approach with that. If you want to share, don't share the secrets or the secret sauce, but tell us how important it is to make them a part of the culture. And mostly is this, many distributors and wholesalers or whatever, they like to control their salespeople, right? They like, don't say this or don't say that. How do you bypass that of trusting your people? Because I see Jimmy, man, all over the place, and I'm one of his biggest fans, because I see that effort that he's doing, and I see, and I'd love to have him on too, in a way.
Yeah,
what's the return for him, right?
Jimmy's nonstop hustle. Jimmy's mentality is just hustle and nonstop, and that's why he fits in so perfectly here, because we're like a machine where we're just cranking out products and new products and content nonstop. So that kind of plays in perfectly with that. As far as like going back to your other question, having the salespeople talk to the customers and present products is only part of it. You know, the salesperson themselves needs to be, able to speak well, and they need to be logical. The products, you don't see the finished, you don't see all of the little clips that we have to cut and reshoot on the videos we make when they say something wrong or they miss something. If they forget something, we're always adding and clipping and cutting videos and stuff like that. So there is some things like that where we need to fix and edit some things, but training them to the proper ways to talk about the product is part of the process. So they're not good their first video. You can go back and look at their first early videos compared to their newer stuff, and you can see the comfortability and the confidence it grows over time. And but that being said, our salespeople that we put on video, these guys are salespeople, man. They know what they're doing. They know how to talk. They know how to fill the gaps with air. There's no gaps of air. They know how to sell the product because they know the product. And just knowing the product is easy, and they understand what their customers need and what their customers want to hear. So that all just it's a sales pitch. You know what I mean? It is all sales pitch at the end of the day, and having somebody that's good at talking and good at and comfortable being behind the camera is the secret sauce to that. Like we have 10 salespeople, but they're not all on video. They're not all behind the camera all the time. Some people are more confident with it than others, and we try to show everybody. But at the end of the day, some people get on camera more than others, which is not a problem. It's not a big deal.
And what I meant by empowering is that I see that Jimmy goes ahead and posts stuff, and goes to LinkedIn and posts it on his Instagram. And that's the fact that he's taking that as an ownership and saying, this is only going to help me. It's a little extra work. I might not be getting paid for it per se. I do it on my time off. I like some comments. And that as my agency, I try to encourage, if I'm going to go in and be a consultant for you, I'm going to also tell you, you need to buy in, and your whole team needs to buy in. So that's what I was saying. So how do you encourage that Jimmy does what he does? Is it because he's a hustler, or is it because you're doing it and you're the change, and that's your expectation?
we don't force them to go out there and post on their own social media. It's not forced on them or anything like that. Like I said, we have a bunch of different sales reps there, and the level of
Comfort level.
contributions is different between everybody. He just loves social media, you know what I mean? Like, so he's definitely always involved, just posting on his own. But at the same time, it feeds him. You know, he's out there posting on Facebook groups, on social media, and his customers are following him as well as Jeffers. So it's a great way to spread it out and cover more ground. You know, not everybody's following Jeff Fresh, it's following Jimmy and vice versa. So it's a good way to just, like I said, to spread the coverage and hit a bigger audience, because and everything that he posts is not always the same thing that Jeff Fresh posts. That's another thing. We try to keep it a little bit different here and there and mix it up.
Cool. You see, you have a strategy behind it. So Jimmy, it was nice talking about you, but we have to move on.
Exactly, yeah.
But Jocelyn Correa says, "Go Ryan, woo woo." She's giving you a shout out there, Ryan. So let me ask you in one sentence, what do you love about the flower industry, man?
I guess the best way to put it, I like the community aspect of it. Like how we talked about a little earlier, I do like the community aspect because it's very much a personal business, and you see people that have been in this industry their whole lives, and now their family members, their kids and stuff like that are getting into the business unto them. And when a worker leaves one company, they'll probably go to another flower company down the street. So you still always have your connections and your loyalties and the people that you like to work with. And there's opportunities to open that up and to bring in new people and to share new things with new audiences. And that's all community based. You know, there's only so much that we can do as Jet Fresh to show off our flowers. You know, that at the end of the day, we need to put it in the right people's hands and then show that off, because we have some designers on board here, but at the end of the day, you know, we say that we sell paint. You know, the artists out there have to actually make the painting. You know, we sell the supplies; they're the artists. So having a community and having people there that can come together, I think that's a really cool aspect of it, and how personal it is, how it really is so much like who you know and who you talk to and who you like to work with really comes into play. So.
And I think that the underlying equation there is engagement, right? And that's something I wanted to talk about today, was how important is it to be purposeful with engagement? Because there's something that I call the Instagram arrogance, right? So if someone tags you, you're like, oh, if someone comments you, like, I'll get back to them, right? But it's so important not only to engage off of the sales phone call and have an honest conversation through and supporting your florist and your customer through liking them, through commenting them, but also returning the favor, not being so picky and really returning the favor. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, engaging in social media is huge. Like if you're only posting pictures, you're not going to grow your community. You're not going to get the more engagement you get, the more views you get. So it works in your benefit to be engaging, you know? So like, writing a comment takes 2 seconds. It doesn't hurt you to, you know, let that person know you appreciate their comment, you appreciate their feedback. And we're not perfect. We don't write to every single comment, every single post, but engaging is crucial in that sense of building your own community and finding out what customers like. Because nowadays social media gives everybody a voice, and that's good or bad depending on your business. You know what I mean? I personally love Google reviews, but I also hate Google reviews because you can have somebody that doesn't understand how we operate or what the business is supposed to be, and then they go on Google and write a bad review because lack of knowledge of what to do or how to do it. So engaging is crucial to like make sure your customers and your potential customers feel heard and feel seen, things like that.
And really being authentic about it, because I think that our customers are so used to that transaction, but when you go on to their social media and you're supporting them and resharing their stuff, they see that you're truly supporting them. And I see you guys do a great job of creating stories of all your customers, right?
We're huge proprietors of sharing our customers. They tag us and stuff. We love to share it. We're here for them. You know, they're at the end of the day. They're at the end of the day making the arrangements for the weddings and flowers for the florists. So sharing theirs is a no-brainer to us. We wouldn't be where we are without our customers. So we're happy to share, and it's just another way of content creation. There's only so much we can create ourselves. Not to mention with COVID, we have people working remote. I'm in the office half the time now because of COVID, and what we've noticed with that is I'm not posting as much things like we're not posting as much things of like every day of what's coming in and keeping people involved on what's the newest and freshest things. We do that obviously, but like there's definitely been like a slight decline from since COVID as how much we're posting, and it's just because of content creation in that sense. When you're here 24/7 with the flowers every day, you can make as much content as you need. But when you're not there, you need to rely on outside sources sometimes to fill in those gaps where you're short on one day or things like that.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. It's so hard to continue to create content. And I
Yeah, we
actually,
kind of set ourselves up as like a machine for just cranking out content,
yeah,
and now we've set ourselves a bar that we try to keep up with at this point. Like I'm constantly making things, and it's never enough. There's always a backlog of things that's coming next. There's always that list.
and that comes the strategy of UZG, user generated content. See, that I run New York Flower Market as a passion project. I'm not connected with
Right.
anybody at the market. I just been doing for 6 years. It's 90% user generated content.
Right.
95%.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, it's because you're not there. That's
Yeah.
and you can only do so much
Yeah.
being remote that you need to figure out other ways like user generated content. Exactly.
Exactly, which is super valuable. Why? Because they're talking about you. You're not talking about themselves. People are tired of hearing you talking about yourself. So they want to hear your customers talk about you. So we got a bunch
We're
of
cocky and we're humble at the same time. You know what I mean? Like we like to hear our names talk, but at the same time, we're humble in the sense that, you know, we want our customers to be what's getting noticed.
exactly, yeah, 100%. That's the most important part, and also supporting your customer, right? And I see that you guys do a lot of collaborations with your customers, send them sample, do things and events with them, and it's all about
Right.
that. Is like I've always said, B2B needs to support B. And that's just the way it is. So let me get to some comments here. We got a bunch of them. Jay Schwanke saying hi, Sahid and Ryan, thumbs up, clap, clap. Fernando, which I believe that's the Fern.
The
Um, he-
fern.
he- the Fern, show offs. You both are. Love it. And then I couldn't expect anything less from him, right? And then Emmanuel, hello from Miami. That's my boy from one of my mentors. And then we have Diana Escobar, Jet Fresh in the house. No
Yeah,
stop
everybody
service.
wants it.
And then
Nobody's
content.
working today. Everybody's watching.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I was about to say, go to work. No, but they're all cool. Hey, content is king, man. So
Yeah. No,
enjoy
no.
the
We're talking about them. They want to hear. They want to hear their names
yeah,
being
yeah,
called.
and that's awesome, man. So, where are we? Let me ask you another question, man. What are your thoughts of the future? So, what are your thoughts of the future of digital marketing? As I said earlier, not that you're the new generation, you are the generation. What do you see ahead of it coming? What do you see the importance of digital marketing? How do you see it evolving? You know,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, digital marketing is not going anywhere. If anything, is going to get more intense, and more things are going to come out, more technology, apps. Nowadays, you can be doing our jobs nowadays with an iPhone and a laptop perfectly. You can easily be successful doing that with the bare minimum. Where how when I started, I needed to convince my dad to buy me a new Mac. Buy come on, he was not prepared for a couple $1,000s worth of supplies to get the marketing department started. Programs, Adobe, Photoshop, those kind of programs. Nowadays, you can get a monthly subscription for a few $100, where back then you needed to buy all of them up front at once, and it was a few $1,000s. You know what I mean? So, just between technology coming up and more new things being developed, more and more apps being developed. Clubhouse is a great new one, like we talked about. I don't see any of that going away anytime soon. Especially, I know COVID is, depending on where we are, it's up and down. We're on our way. Seems like we're on our way out of it, but digital trade shows, all these things are essentially, they're not going to stop right away, and people are still trying to figure out better ways of doing that. And that includes us. We're definitely working on always trying to think of new ways to make our our process better, easier for our customers. But digital marketing is not. I mean, that's not going anywhere. I imagine now, especially nowadays, everybody's on their devices. Everybody's looking at their phones, at social media, and I don't foresee that going anywhere anytime soon.
And again, what would you say to somebody that says, and we kind of spoke about it earlier, what would you say to somebody that says, "Oh, it's not for me. It's not now, or it's not for me," and they're still looking to grow their business. What would you
I
say to
mean,
them?
when I first got started at Jeff Fresh, specifically with like the wholesalers and the importers, almost none of them had a website, let alone a Facebook, anything like that. It was still early on in all those games and all the games with that. But the bare minimum things, like not a Google review, not a Google listing, not a nobody, they can't find you online. They can't find you on your social media. You know what I mean? Like you're missing out. Like it's simple as that. Like you're missing opportunities if you're not. There's no longer a question of do I need this? You know what I mean? Like yes, you need it, and yes, you need a full-time employee or at least a part-time employee to manage it, because it is not let me just post a picture on my phone. You can do that, but you're not going to get the results you want. You know what I mean? You're not going to be standing out from the crowd. There's, like we said, there's 30 companies in Miami selling the same flowers. How do you stand out from them? What makes you different from them? Why do I want to buy yours over theirs? Is it not because of the picture you took? So
Yeah,
there's no choice anymore. You need to get on it, and you need to be active with it. It's more than just getting into it. You got to stay active with it. Like this, like your show here. Like a lot of people did interviews at the beginning of COVID, but most of them just fell off. Most of them stopped doing it, and that's why they're not gonna see success from it. You need to continue it and grow the plant. You got to keep watering it. You got to make changes as it gets better, gets worse. You got to make your alterations. But yeah,
and
don't
it's
even
also,
don't even waste your time. Get on it. The digital marketing. Come on. It's
get on it and be
2021.
intentional and be consistent. And then now I ask you, and we might be going a little over because I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you don't mind, man, if we go a couple
I
more
got
minutes.
no I got nowhere to go. We're good. We got all the time we want.
Cool. Appreciate that. Um, Two questions. One is, I know that there's wholesalers and I know that there's distributors and
Mhm.
farms thinking this is not for me because it's not my customer. And especially like even websites, because websites now a piece of your marketing, right? That's just a
Right.
part of your funnel.
Right.
So, what was your opinion on the importance of having a website that's not only talking about yourself, but engaging and converting, and how important is the entire funnel from the digital marketing to the level? And you guys are on all levels to every level, because some people were like, I don't use that because we talk to wholesalers, or I don't. How important is it to everybody in our sectors, or how important is it to Jet Fresh growers and and everybody
Yeah.
else?
I mean, across the board, marketing is a strategy. You need to have a good strategy in place. You need to have an idea of, you need to know who your customers are. You need to know who your suppliers are, and you need to know where they are in the digital sense. You know what I mean? So like, let's say a farm or importer doesn't have a great presence, but they know their customers that have a great presence. They can work with them, collaborate with certain people and strategically make plans that way. There's every person, every company is a different specific situation. They all have their own unique needs and wants. So it's kind of hard to say flat out what needs to be done, but a strategy is crucial, and knowing, you know, how much effort and time you're going to put into that kind of plays with the whole process.
And knowing your target market, like you're saying, where they're at, where your customer persona is, and how to target that customer persona. And there's a customer persona for everybody. So
Right.
and the one thing I say is, look, I've researched many of the wholesalers websites, and 80-90% are, and farms, maybe 70, let's hopefully through COVID they've made them better, but there's no engagement. There's a contact us and that's it,
Right.
right?
It's
That's
because
not
most It's because most websites are built using the same platform. That most people use the same plugins, or at least the same structure for the most part. And you have a choice. Do you want, like our website? It's unique in the sense that um, it's more meant for you to explore, because there's so much going on, than it is to just funnel you directly into a contact form. You know, obviously that's the main goal at the end of the day, is to get them to contact you and fill out a form or call us, you know. But at the same time, the more time your customer spends on your website is better for you. You know, you want them to be able to answer as many questions as you want without calling you. If they can answer all the questions without calling you, that's ideal, because then they call you when it's time to buy, not when it's time to ask you 5 more questions to then figure out if they want to buy. So that's all. Having all of that planned out as part of your strategy and part of your funnel is crucial. You know, that's the name of the game nowadays, is figuring out your strategy and figuring out where your customers are coming from and figuring out how do I convert them.
Exactly. And that's the trick. And I think we don't do a great job of that in our industry, is understanding the funnel, where it starts, how it ends, and then how do you put them back into the funnel. And one of my visions for websites throughout the industry is make it a place for information and a resource, right? So that there's a purpose for them to go, like what you guys do. You have a blog,
Right.
So it's really make it something purposeful, not just, hey, look at me. That doesn't work anymore, right?
Yeah, and like we were saying, how there's so many different types of customer base and types of people. Like, let's say you only sell to supermarkets. Your website doesn't need to be presenting things to brides and wedding planners, you know, and if you're only focused on supermarkets. So like, that's a completely different strategy than you would selling only to florists and event planners. So like you're saying, you need to have that plan, and you need to have that know-how.
So because I'm excited for the next step of the show, where do most of your ideas come from?
I mean, half the ideas, I'll give him credit. Half the ideas are my dad yelling out across the room, "I got an idea," and my job will be to take that idea and somehow put it into play.
You mean that guy, right?
That guy right there. There's the mastermind right there.
You're on mute, Mike. Just a heads up.
He knows. He's been in this industry his whole life, and he's looking at things from everybody's point of view. From obviously his point of view as the supplier, but he knows what his customers need and want, and that's really, you know, the secret sauce, is knowing your customers and knowing what they need and want. And then for me, I just step in and put technology behind it, put some creativity behind it, and put it out there for them to look at.
That's a perfect, combination, man. The fearless leader, Fernie says. So, Mike, what's up? Thanks for joining us real quick, man. How's it going?
How you doing? Thanks for having us.
No, man, my pleasure. Tell us about what your inspiration was for the whole marketing. I know we spoke some while back, and you told me some insight, and I thought it was super, super cool. Tell us about the inspiration that you used to create your voice and tone and your content within JetFresh.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
A little better. Can you say that again?
Yeah, give me a second. Tell us about your inspiration. Like, where do you get all your ideas from? And when you first started JetFresh, what was your inspiration? What was your vision for your voice tone and just creating your content?
Well, first of all, before I answer that question, I want to thank you for interviewing my son, because I learned things today that I didn't even know. So that's great. And good job, Ryan. So look, there's no science to it, to the way the ideas came out, other than when I moved here from New York, I got to see a whole nother side of an industry that I really didn't know much about. When you're out in different states, you're on the phone, maybe you come down once a year to visit your suppliers or this or that, but you really don't get it like when you see it firsthand what's going on in a lot of companies. And my first job here was not working for a mainstream kind of company. I was working for a company that sold local distress merchandise that was not really deemed fresh and shippable. That's where I started. But when I started fast forward years later, when I started JetFresh, I just wanted to the company to come off in a way that would relate to people that I know from the North, right? So we didn't want to be the guys from Miami. We wanted to be the guy from your warehouse, the guy from your cooler, the guy that you know, the guy that you work with every day. And, one of the things that I noticed in Miami when I first moved here is there's a whole lot of Chiefs and a whole lot of little bit of Indians. And the Chiefs all sat in the office, didn't get their hands dirty, and pretty much had their lunch hour. And then at 3 o'clock, everyone's at the ale house having cocktails and not answering their phones. And our company just did the complete opposite. The complete opposite.
And when it comes to those, like the TV and JetFresh TV and all that fun stuff,
your mic's too far.
When it comes to, thank you, man. When it comes to JetFresh TV and all that fun stuff, where does that come from? What's your inspo for that?
That we got started. I started early on with that. That was one of the first things we did, and that was simple. It was a picture is worth 1,000 words. How much is a video worth? And between technology and YouTube, it was still early on, but it was very easily accessible, and most importantly, it was free. And we could easily just record a video, upload to YouTube, and send that to your customer, and all the questions are answered. Versus 3 random warehouse pictures because you open the box, you take the picture from the side. You know what I mean? That picture doesn't sell as much as a video explaining to you what you're going to get, how you get it. It looks this is how you receive it when you open the box. It's going to be just like this.
Yeah.
You're used to that.
Our first videos was actually playing inside of an old antique television.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. That was taken away from me. That was taken away from me because of
the Adobe Flash website.
Because of the future. But that was cool. That was Ryan was able to figure out how to get a television frame and for the videos to play on that television with a static and all the stuff that would go with it.
Yeah. Still out there.
And the introduction to our first website was me flying on a plane like a cartoon. I don't know if you remember that, Ryan, the Dudley Do-Right music and all that. So we had fun. We just had fun with it. But all that changed with the new technology.
And that's the best part of creating content, man. I think that I've been saying it for a while is don't fear perfection, right? Is just go out there. Obviously, you want a certain aesthetic, but you want to have fun with it. And you don't want to fear. And the great thing is that you're a graphic designer, dude. Let's face the fact.
I definitely push myself to produce high quality. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's got to be something fun. It's got to making them laugh is an easy way to turn a sale over.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll send stuff to Ryan, like if he's at home and something's going on at the warehouse or at the office, and we'll send it to him. And I'll ask him, hey, how come you didn't post it? He'll say, because it sucked. Like you have to have, it's not top quality. He don't want nothing to do with it.
So people think we post too much. Like, just keep in mind that we're actually limiting it. We're actually saying no to things. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're actually filtering. I have a group of guys at some of the wholesalers that take pictures, and they'll send me 40, and I'll use 5 because you have to filter it because it's an aesthetic that you're trying to stick to, right?
It's also an algorithm base. When Instagram first got started, we were posting maybe 4 things a day. We were just constantly posting. And then once the algorithms all changed up, you got to post to what you can get views. If you're not going to ever see something, what's the point of posting it? So.
And that comes back to and I was about to ask you for a couple tips as well, but that also comes back to answering the comments right away and things like that. And the reels, what are the best 2 things that you're doing now that you could share with people when it comes to digital marketing that you would say keep an eye on? Right.
Like you just said, reels. When they roll out those new parts or aspects of a program like Reels for Instagram, they put that higher in their algorithm. So Reels gets more views than a normal post would. So taking advantage of technology and just knowing, what kind of things are getting more views. There's algorithms out there. There's science where you can start a program of posting X amount of times, X amount of stories, X amount of reels per week, and you'll see your growth grow over time. We strive ourselves on. We don't pay for any growth or any followers or anything like that. We've been steadily growing as we go, and that's all part of it. Knowing what what new things and what new tricks are out there and taking advantage of them while they're there. So like right now, Reels is obviously good. TikTok, Clubhouse, those are all new apps, depends on who you are. As a farm, you might not need a TikTok, but at the same time,
You never know.
who knows where it's going to be in a year? Who knows where it's going to end up? So getting involved early just helps you, puts your foot forward to where things are going to go. And like I was saying earlier, where there's so many things and not all your customers are all on that one app. So you need to spread it out and cover all your grounds. LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, there's a different audience in every one. So you might want to consider what you're posting on where and change it up depending on your audience.
And Gary Vee, right?
Yeah, of course.
Gary Vee, 5-6 years ago, he said, and he put it very well, all of these social media platforms are like real estate. Get your real estate, put your flag in, because you never know what's going to happen. So it's like, buying a stock early, right? So get in there and drip, 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 and build your audience. Let me take a couple comments here. Eric Renner Joey, that I can't say his name, but I call him Alex anyways, a good friend of mine, says Jet Fresh rocks. Their merchandise is epic. And Daniel Sanchez, another good friend of mine, says congrats to Jet Fresh and all their success. So shout out to you guys as well. So getting back down to my final questions. I know we're over our time, but it's been, I'm a selfish questioner, so sorry about that, man. What is one question, and we'll start with your dad and then we'll go with you. What's one question you challenge the floral industry to ask themselves this year? Mike.
Oh, man.
Keep it short, Mike.
What is one question?
Yes. What is one question you would, and this is, by the way, this is on the fly. Mike was not expecting this. So what is one question you would ask, you would challenge the floral industry, to ask themselves this year?
I guess the first thing I would say, are you contributing enough? Are you contributing enough? Kind of like what you and me were talking about on the phone, is that it takes a community of competitors to come together and drive the industry to the places it could go. I don't think we've seen anything yet. I don't think we've even begun to see where our industry grows, because in my opinion, the United States is far behind Europe and other places as far as flower consumption. I don't think we've gotten anywhere. And I think I might get some hate mail about it, but I think that we've put way too much focus in these supermarkets. Way too much focus in the supermarkets and not enough focus on the nitty-gritty, bare bones flower professionals that are out there actually making your day so special. I don't recall ever seeing somebody pushing a shopping cart in a supermarket smiling with a bunch of flowers in their cart. I've seen them smiling because they got a good deal on 2 boxes of Cheerios, but I've never seen them smile because they got a great deal on some flowers. I think the real world is driven by supermarkets now in our flower industry, but I think that we've forgotten about where we are, where we came from. There's no, even some supermarkets do weddings and do funerals and do all this kind of stuff. I just think there's been too much emphasis on that direction and not enough emphasis on where we all came from.
So then you would challenge
people to remember where you came from and not forget. Just not forget where the actual smiles and the actual real stories about the flower business really come from. Now, supermarkets are a viable part of the business. They're a very important part of the business, in my opinion. They actually keep costs down because people can produce so much more. But at the end of the day, though, there is a whole nother segment of the industry that a lot of people seem to forget. And I don't think we should forget them.
Thank you for that, man. And hashtag flower smiles. I always say you never see somebody holding flowers without smiling. So hashtag flower smiles all the way. And how about yourself, Ryan? What's one question you would challenge the floral industry from your generation perspective? What would be
it's a similar answer about, are they doing enough or can you do more? And put that more on the side of collaborating and giving people opportunities that maybe they never had before. finding unique voices and using their voices to help spread your messages. There's so many talented people out there in the flower industry alone that deserve recognition and deserve credit. And I think it's a great way for suppliers to help them get to the level that they deserve to be.
Yeah. In other words, support B2B, right? That's, in other words, support them, invest in them a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. Don't be afraid to collaborate.
But yeah, that's it, man. And that's a secret sauce nowadays. It's not a secret anymore either. So then one thing I try to open up the Bloom Show for is for community engagement and networking. So both of you gentlemen, is there any opportunities out there you're looking to collaborate, speaking to florists, or even speaking to other distributors, or looking to network? You're looking for a logistics company. Anything you want to share?
I guess opportunities for networking. We're always open to new ideas. There's been a huge spike in online flower classes and packaging custom boxes and sending flowers to your customers for them to do online classes, things like that. There's a huge spike in that. Also TV shows, all these big TV shows now coming around. There's all these competition shows. We're open to collaborating and exploring with everything like that, I would feel. Also, myself personally, I see flowers as a medium, and I like to put flowers in the hands of artists, not just florists, and to see what they make. And I love to see the different aspect and the different mentality that like a traditional artist or a painter or sculptor can put their hands around and use flowers in a different way, because nowadays with everything going on, and you could see it just going on social media, not for work, just for personal, your personal social media. You see music videos, TV shows, movies. Flowers are everywhere. If you just look, if you look around, you'll notice it. It's always in the back end. Nobody ever pays attention to it, but the people who notice it, you notice that it's gotten a lot better over time. And even now, they just saw they're going to start doing awards for florists and movies and TV shows and stuff like that.
Or Jill Brooke, yeah.
It's amazing, because those people deserve that recognition. Because I'm sitting there watching these award shows, I'm like, oh, look at the flowers, the centerpieces on that table. Those are pretty nice.
And they didn't just grow there, right? It
got there somehow. And there's always a little bit of digging you got to do to figure out, what florist set that up, and then you got to go dig and find that out.
Yeah, it's a real cool thing to see that happen. That flowers are hitting Hollywood, that flowers are making mainstream, and the Full Bloom show really inspired me to learn more, because I did not realize that one flower is actually strategically placed there. Ryan, real quick, tell us about the new collaboration that you did with an artist that created basically a video underwater and all that. That was you guys, right? Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So actually, we have a friend of ours in Canada. He's a traditional artist, but he basically I've been following for a few years now, and he was just going out in his yard and going to a flower shop in Canada and collecting pieces of nature and reassembling that into shapes of animals and things like that. And he's worked with a few big companies like Pangea and some clothing companies to bring awareness to like animal awareness and endangered species and stuff like that. And there was a random day where we connected on social media, and we were introducing him to our preserved flower line, because he makes these one-off things out of nature, but eventually they have to die. They have to be thrown away because the flowers will wilt. So getting our preserved flowers in his hands was a lot of fun for him and for us, because he got to build something that was obviously his style and creative, but at the same time, it was going to last for years. So he was able to make a bunch of little, a few little sea life. So he made some clownfish, he made a seahorse, and he made an anglerfish, which he sent me still images of that I actually took my skills, my animation skills came back out to bring those to life. But yeah, and that's a great example of giving the flowers to an artist, let them doing their thing, and then just sharing it with our audience, because there's so much, especially with those preserved flowers. Those things are made for artists and people that like to make signs and statement pieces. You can go so much further than the hat boxes that they make.
And that's user generated content collaboration, and you're showing your customer how they could work with it, right? And you're validating the use of it. So that's just genius. And then Mike, to you, any networking opportunities, anybody you'd like to sit down and have a chat with, even the Dalai Lama, but alive, but anybody you'd like to connect with?
Yeah, actually, I see him talking on the messenger here. His name is Jay Schwenke. I reached out
Jay,
to
I'm
him many
sorry.
years ago.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I reached out to him many years ago to try to collaborate with him then. Maybe something is possible now.
So
I'd love to.
I think he had given a shout
I
out
watch the
earlier.
TV show all the time.
Yeah, he's a cool guy, man, and he's one of the guys I respect as well, because he was one of the guys that we were like, oh, what a weirdo, right? Because no, sorry, Jay, but what is he doing? But he knew what he was doing, and he was creating a voice for himself, and he was becoming an influencer. So all my respect goes out to him, and he's a mentor-ish of mine as well, where he really supports and helps the Bloom Show. So thank you, Jay, and much respect, and to you guys
And we
too,
got a
man.
lot in common. We both grew up in our dad's flower shops. We got a lot in common.
Yeah, he was actually born or birthed in a freaking show, and his stories is amazing and cool, and bread, flour, true and true. So, Jay, hook up with Mike, man, and hopefully you guys take it somewhere. But hey, gentlemen, again, thank you for just sharing generously, man. Not worry about competition. I putting where your money where your mouth is, and honestly, being one of the guys that everybody was looking at, oh, what are they doing with this digital marketing, dressing up like a Gerber? And now it's basically you're creating the pathway for everybody to see that this is how it works, right? And there's an ROI, and sometimes it can't be measured, but sometimes it can be measured with time and consistency. So,
Right.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Any final words?
Thank you for having us.
You're doing great. You're doing great. I think you're helping the industry in a big way. And I think that everyone that watches it, whether they want to admit it or not, is learning a little something from each one of these different shows that you're putting out. And a lot of them, like Ryan said, have come and gone. But I just think you're doing a great job, and we're big fans of yours, and you can always count on us whenever you need something.
I appreciate you, man.
It's not easy marketing for one company, let alone trying to figure out a way to help a bunch of companies. I remember when I first started with Jeffresh, I was doing side work for a few other companies, and it was really hard to not play favorites and not, everybody's, if we're all selling the same flowers, how do you market that differently from one company to the next? So it's a challenge to figure out for one, let alone a few different companies. So
it all starts. Thank you, man. But it all starts with your DNA, right? It all starts with your vision, not mine. So that's where it all starts with. So it started with your dad's vision, and then you took it to the next level. So congratulations to you guys too, man. And again, you got a floral peer in me, as I say, man. You got a friend in me. I'm here to help, man. Take care, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye. So everybody, thanks so much. Sorry for my impromptu singing, but Toy Story, you have a friend in me. And Jay Schwanke says, I love it. Ashley Silva says, great interview. Love to all. So thank you very much. Again, the Bloom Show is really here as to create community, to inspire and innovate the floral industry through community, to share, to talk, to connect, to network. Really, really, really means a lot to me, and that's really what I do this for. So please feel free to reach out to me. New Bloom Solutions, we're a digital marketing, website design, and consulting agency. We've also partnered up with Above All Flowers, the wizard of flower procurement, and consulting as well. So please feel free to reach out to us. And as well, Sahid and New Bloom Solutions, I put my money where my mouth is. I say, if you need something from me, if you're new to the industry, you want to connect, you want to meet people, whatever it is, I'll connect you. I don't believe in competition. I truly believe in, and I've been using his thing so long now, but what Alejandro says is stop fighting for that piece of the pie and let's just make our pie bigger. And that way, we don't have to worry about others. So please do me a favor, subscribe, like, and share and comment below. That helps with the algorithms. That keeps us spreading the word more and more and building our community consistently. So that is a lot of help from you guys, and truly appreciate it. Thank you again. See you next week. This whole month, we're talking about marketing, social media marketing, SEO. I consider websites to be a part of marketing as well, because it's a part of your phone. So on and on. So please tune in, keep an eye on us, and thank you again to the Jet Fresh family. Take care, guys.